Hello again. We've talked a lot about growing up and getting married and some of the things that have taken place. I'd like to share with you, uh, just going along the same path, some of our married life and what we did on the farm. And when we first got the farm, I was riding Kamari's horses and Smokey, and we were looking for horses to buy and sell. A typical stable operation, if you are boarding horses, it takes about 3 boarding horses to pay the board for one of your own. If you're teaching lessons, the teacher makes a living wage by teaching. And, the more you teach, the more you can make. But the real profit in a stable operation is in buying and selling horses. And you make your money when you buy, not when you sell. You collect it when you sell. But what we were doing is we would buy horses that were untrained. They may have been broke to ride, but they're not trained to ride in a dressage arena or in a jumping arena. My jumping horses, I like to have them at about third level dressage. So the flat work is dressage work in training jumpers and hunters. Anyway, we had been together for a little while there, and I was a good farmer. I was named the Outstanding Young Farmer in Payne County 3 years in a row. And so we're doing well, and we have about 350 head of mother cows. Uh, and I'm spending maybe 3 hours a day working horses, and the rest of the time, the other 14 hours I was putting in, or 12 hours at least, on the farm and ranch, was taking care of the cattle and farming. After 4 years of doing this, Mary and I were sitting down and discussing, where's our future going to take us? I love farming and ranching, but I knew that there was no chance that I could make enough money farming and ranching to buy a farm and ranch. I wasn't in line to inherit one, and neither was Kamari. So what are we going to do with the rest of our lives? Are we going to be in debt all of our life? Or just what? And so we started looking and planning, sitting around the kitchen table in our regular planning meetings that we had. The horses were making as much net profit annually, working 3 hours a day and taking kids to horse shows, as the farm and ranch was in the other hours that I was putting in. The farm and ranch was doing really well, and one of the reasons that I was named the Outstanding Young Farmer is I had made a 5% return each year on my capital investment. That's never going to buy one, and at that period of time, the interest rate was as high as 14%. And you're not going to be able to buy property making 5% on your capital investment without having a lot of money to pay down or inheriting it, and we weren't in line with either. So we made a decision. We said we're going to go in the horse business full time. And if we can make it in the next 5 years, then we'll stay with the horse business. If we can't make it in the horse business, then I'll only be 32 years old, and I could do anything I wanted to do, including going back to school to become a veterinarian if I so chose. So we sold our equipment, we sold our cattle, and we had a little bit of money left over. We had been pouring most of our money back into improvements on the place where we were, but we sold all of that and we moved to Florida and took a partnership with a man in Winter Haven, Florida. After we had been down there about 4 months, I was doing, of course, the riding of the horses and training, and the man that we were in partnership with had a son and daughter that were showing, and they had been running a stable, but he sold a lame horse to some people that didn't know better. And so I dissolved the partnership the next day, because one of the things that I believe in strongly is integrity of what you're doing. And so after I dissolved the partnership, Mary and I rented a stable at the Winter Haven Fairgrounds, and there. We have some fun stories that took place while we were in Florida. And we'll discuss those in a little more depth in a later video, but I'll give you one to begin with. I had bought a horse by the name of the Assassin. I told you the story, I think, of how I came by him. But it was because he had put a man in the hospital after the man was trying to ride him, and he had thrown him 7 times in one day. He turned on the man to savage him, to kill him, and would have, had they been in a situation where some people had been able to reach through a rail fence and grab the man's leg and pull him to safety. He even spent several weeks in the hospital because of it. And so the horse had gained a bad reputation. The people who owned him tried to put him through a sale ring shortly after that in Tucson, Arizona. And evidently no one would even place a bid on him because he ran everybody out of the sale ring. And they got him back home. And they called me and said, Lee, can you just get rid of this thing? He has a reputation down here and we can't give him away. And I said, sure. I was in Oklahoma. They were just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And it was a little while before I could go down, but about 2.5, 3 weeks later, I drove down to Santa Fe with my horse trailer. And when I got there, the people there were several people knew that I was going to pick him up. And so they had come to see this of me getting him in a horse trailer. But you know, he had gotten over his mad, just like a person can get mad and be really mean and ornery. And then when time has a way of cooling off tempers and angers, he was over his mad when I got there. I took a halter and walked into the corral. As I opened the gate, all the people that were there scattered like a covey of quail because they were afraid he was going to attack, but he didn't. And so I got the halter on him and put him in the trailer and came back to Ripley, Oklahoma. Well, when I had a horse that needed to be gotten rid of, I used to haul them to Fort Smith, Arkansas. They had a monthly sale there where they would sell 1,500 head of horses every month. And I just put the horse there and buyer beware. Anyway, it was a couple of weeks off when I got back to Ripley, and we'd had him there 3 or 4 days, and I told Kamari, I said, you know, I think I'm going to try him. I said, he doesn't look that bad to me. And so I saddled him and got on him, and he was kind of nice. And I went and checked my cattle and came back, and I called them that night, the people that owned him, and I said, look, he's going to bring $250 through that sale ring after I have my expenses of hauling him down there. I said, I'll write you a check today for $250 for him, and I'll take the risk. I'd like to play with him a while. And they said, send us a check. So he became mine. And that was when we named him the Assassin. And so I started riding him and put the English saddle on him and was riding him. And he was nice to ride. Well, it took me about 4 or 5 days before I found what the problem was. The problem was you could not tell him he had to do anything. If you told him he had to and he didn't like it, he would fight you. He'd fight you until it was a cold day and down below. And so I had to back off of that, and I got him to the point that I was asking him to jump. And if he didn't like it, I tried to set up circumstances where he punished himself in not being able to do some of the things or not doing them. And so I gradually got to the point that I could punish him and get away with it, but you had to punish him and get away. You had to punish quick and quit punishment. And he finally got to where he would tolerate that with me. And we started down the trail. And I'll tell you in the next one, the first horse show I took him to and the fun ride we had there. I'd like to have you subscribe and make comments. I love to read the comments that you send in. Have a wonderful day.